you know, a personal standpoint, I feel the same way you do.
All right, Dawkins, cue the music, man.
Are we doing it?
Yeah,
Which one?
hit that Brian Dawkins intro, baby.
Yeah, the Dawkins one. All right, hang on.
Give me that Dawkins intro, baby.
Hang on, hang on. Whew, we're ready. You ready for this?
Cue it, dog.
All right, got you. Oh, we live. My bad.
We live.
Hang on, let me start it over. I didn't know we were live.
We're good, man. We're good. We're still working out the kinks, man.
Can you feel that? Can you feel what's about to happen on this field, man?
Shit, I'm ready.
Can y'all feel that? Can you feel that?
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The intro is from Madden. What is that?
Man, no 8.
Madden '08. Brian Dawkins with the intro. One of the best ever made. That and Ray Lewis. I think it was last year.
Yeah, 13. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the best ever made. What's up, you guys? Welcome to Frisian Sports. I am Liv 510, and I'm here with Dawkins, as well as Toxis is joining us today as well. Man, a lot of stuff happened today. We got a lot of stuff to get into. We're definitely going to talk about all the MLB trades, give our reactions on that. Try to be neutral, but I feel like emotions will spill out. And we're also going to talk about Ray Rice and the suspension. So let's start with the Ray Rice, because we don't know where the MLB conversation is going to go and how long it's going to take. But first, before we jump into Ray Rice, let's talk about our weeks, man. Dawkins, how has your week been, man?
Man, week has been going pretty good, man. Been watching some people's live streams, aka livings. Been having a blast. You know, I mean, putting out videos and stuff like that. You know, just having a good time. Football season. Every time we talk, we'll get a little bit closer to football season. So that's always a good thing, man. Excited about to talk about these trades, man. I'm just ready for the show. Just ready for it, man.
Oh, yeah, I'm pumped now. Tox, how you been, man?
I've been doing good, busy, dealing with work and everything like that. So nothing too out of the ordinary or exciting this week. So as long as everything continues to go well, I'll be happy for the week.
Nice, yeah. Should be a good week. My week has been awesome as well. Began live streaming on Twitch, which I've never done before, and it's pretty fun. It's awesome. And I'll be doing that later on today as well. But other than that, kind of been debating whether or not to move to California, but that's a whole different topic. So let's move on, and let's start talking about Ray Rice, man. So Ray Rice gets suspended for 2 games. He can still participate in training camps and stuff like that. Dawkins, what do you think about suspension? Do you think that he should get a long suspension? What are your thoughts when you heard that?
When I heard that he got 2 games, it's typical of the NFL that they are a lot stiffer on other things. They're a lot stiffer on drug use, whether it's PEDs, whether it's marijuana. They're way more stricter on that as far as misconduct, like getting into fights and stuff like that, like a physical altercation between two men. They're more aggressively determined to put a stop to that. But as far as domestic violence, this might be the biggest case of it. And to give Ray Rice only 2 games is kind of it's really a joke. You know what I mean? If somebody can get suspended 4 to 6 games for getting, a positive drug test one time, but you are on camera and your wife is knocked out and everybody knows that you put her in that state and you only get 2 games, that's a joke. He should have got at least 8 games. I would have suspended him for at least half of the season. You know what I mean? Alden Smith. The stuff that Alden Smith did compared to what Ray Rice did, yeah, Alden Smith might have done more things, but he's probably going to get suspended for 8 games. He's done more things, but nothing as bad as striking, a female. You know what I mean? His has been really, self-inflicted wounds with him being drunk, with him, running his car off the road, with him, having gun possession charges, stuff like that. That saw him doing stupid things. It wasn't as far as, putting, a female in the situation that Ray Rice did. So for Ray Rice to get 2 games, to me it's a joke. He should get at least half of the season, but I'm not Roger Goodell. He's the one who makes all the decisions and stuff like that. But if I was the commissioner, I'm giving him at least 2 games.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Tox? Do you think that this suspension was warranted at 2 games?
I kind of agree with Dawkins was saying a little about the situation of the context of how he was, how like suspensions are handed out to people who are more for sports, who are more focused on the drugs rather than the domestic dispute. I mean, like if you look at the NBA too, like they banned Sterling for life for saying
Ooh,
he
nice.
didn't like black people and everything like that, and then you see a Ray Rice who did something where he physically harmed his wife and everything like that, and which could have led, like in a lot of instances, there's times where people get knocked out, like get hit once and they die from one hit and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it's like with this, it's just kind of what Dawkins was saying, like a silly joke of a suspension of just 2 games and everything like that. If you're focused on the real issue, it should be more than 2 games because of domestic violence in general, how severe that is in our society and everything like that. But going back to, I guess you could say, the whole, what I think about it is just that there's still some things that are coming out from the story. From Ray Rice hasn't fully disclosed everything to the media about the full situation. All we just know is the videos for sure, and which is graphic. I just feel like that he should be punished more. I mean, even Michael Vick was punished more for the animal abuse and everything like that, and the killing of dogs and things, and vilifying him and everything. And there's not so much as a whole vilification against Ray Rice that you're seeing from the community as well too. And at the same time, he's getting like more of a whole big support from. I feel that the suspension gives the notion that the NFL is giving him support, even though he did something horrendous that a lot of us would see as something that is totally unacceptable and should never happen.
Yeah. I was surprised when I heard this, mostly because, like you guys have all been mentioning, we actually have the aftermath on tape. So it's not like allegedly. It's not like, oh, well, maybe this happened. We actually have a significant piece of evidence on tape. And Tox, you brought up a great point, man. You mentioned a ton of instances in the past where the NFL has come down hard, and then here they kind of are really easy on them. And I could be wrong about this, but I do believe that I saw earlier on in the week that Ray Rice actually has a lot of support from the fellow NFL players, voicing their support for Ray Rice and hoping that everything works out well for him. And they even showed a clip of his wife watching him play or train in minicamp and stuff. So with all this stuff going on, I think they're really trying to sweep it under the rug. I don't understand why they're trying to do that, because it's like you said, it was very graphic to see, and I'm not married, but if I had a wife and she were on the ground like that, I would like help her up. I would do something, or I would carry her out. Like if something happened inside, I'd carry her out. You know, it's just something like that. You don't see any type of empathy from him on the clip. So it really it really kind of stings me that he only got 2 games. I would have liked to have him get more, possibly a whole year, just to make a statement. But at the same time, and I could be wrong about this, and I probably am. I don't know if there were any instances before when we had something like this occur in the NFL where there was this amount of evidence, this amount of publicity, and stuff.
Nah,
So
yeah. There's never been an instance where there's been this much attention on this one subject. But you know, it's happened, of course. You know, with basketball players, even baseball players and stuff like that. But yeah, I just feel like he should have got more games. I feel like it is kind of being swept underneath the rug. You know, okay, it's 2 games, we'll deal with it. You know what I mean? Then we'll just move on. And I just think that the NFL really dropped the ball, and they could have really set, you know, the standard. To if you do something like this, you will be, you know, dealt with harshly.
yeah. Okay. Do we have anything else kind of that we want to touch on this? Do we want to touch on the whole Stephen A. Smith thing, or do we kind of just want to move on?
Stephen A. Smith, he should have watched what he said in the manner in which he said it. I agree with what he was trying to say, but again, when you're on a show like that, you're not just talking to people in your area or in your, you know, from your neighborhood or from your background. Because in the urban culture, you know what I mean, stuff like that happens a lot, you know what I mean, and sometimes it does get swept underneath the rug and stuff like that. But when you work for a company like ESPN, you're talking to the whole world, and not everybody's going to understand where you're coming from. So you need to express yourself to the fullest extent possible so everybody from every background, every culture can understand exactly what you meant. You know what I mean? And I feel like Stephen A. Smith dropped the ball there. I respect him for what he was trying to do because, again, I got his point. But, again, a lot of people didn't. And that's why he got suspended for a week, because you can't just say something like that when you have a video that's so graphic, when people are upset that Ray Rice only got 2 games, you know what I mean? And then you come off as kind of insensitive to the subject, saying that, you know, she probably brought it onto herself and stuff like that. It's like, I see where you're coming from, but you have to explain yourself, and you have to, you know, ultimately you have to show respect and sympathy for the woman. You know what I mean? Ray Rice isn't the victim. You know what I mean? Ray Rice might have had some things said to him. Ray Rice might have got hit. Well, you know, it's his job to get hit by a lot of people bigger than his wife. You know what I mean? So he could probably take a hit from his wife. You know, suck it up and walk away. Not saying that anybody else in this world would have done the same thing, but in Stephen A. Smith's position, when you're on ESPN, you're on First Take, and you're one of the biggest names, you know, under the whole ESPN umbrella, you know, and the ESPN is underneath, you know, Disney. So it's like you really got to watch what you say. You can't just go out there and speak your mind without having any sympathy or caring about how anybody else feels.
Very well put. Very well put. I definitely echo everything that you said. I think that I agree with his point. I definitely agree with. And well, it's exactly like you said. There's different people from different backgrounds watching ESPN. Exactly like you said. So, you know, but at the same time, how does Michelle Beadle not get suspended? You know, because we have seen a lot of other people get in trouble for a lot less things, and the fact that she went on this rant about Twitter and like called them out and all this stuff, and and all these eyes got put on her, and she started making all these allegations. And I think there was one time that she actually like retweeted somebody who tweeted her saying, "Oh, well, don't worry, it's just another white woman trying to bring another black man in power and higher status down." And she actually retweeted something like that. So the whole fact that she's not getting any type of ramifications for her involvement in it, and her kind of desire to use it as a way of trying to put her name out there or whatever like that is ludicrous to me.
I mean, I see where you're coming from. I don't mean to cut you off, but to
No,
me,
go
I
ahead.
didn't take it that way. I took it as she totally disagreed with Stephen A. Smith. You know what I mean? And she didn't personally say those things. Those are things that she retweeted out. You know what I mean? And I actually respect her for retweeting it out and giving her own 2 cents about what the person said. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people were backing Stephen A. Smith. She was one of the people that wasn't. And she's like a coworker of his. So I actually commend her for having, the courage to do that. And of course she's gonna get flack come her way. And of course people are gonna say, "Oh, you're trying to bring down a black man." No, Stephen A. Smith brought himself down. That day, Stephen A. Smith brought himself down. It would have been nothing that Michelle Beadle did, put him any far down. It was like if she would have retweeted the stuff or not retweeted the stuff, he would have still been suspended for a week. You know what I mean? So people love Twitter because they can interact with the people that they see on TV and movies and music and all that stuff. And she's one of the people that you could actually talk to and she actually respond. So I actually like that about her. I actually like the fact that she has the courage to, you know what, this is what I believe. I'm willing to stand up for this. I'm not going to back down to whoever, retweets me or says they're going to stop watching Sports Nation, because half of this stuff was just ignorant. Half of this stuff was just ignorant. Oh, I'm going to stop watching Sports Nation because that was your opinion. But it's like not too many people saying, oh, I'm going to stop watching ESPN First Take. You know what I mean? So it's like, at the end of the day, I totally agree with you that like she was kind of going a little bit too far in. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if you read everything that was being tweeted at her, some of the stuff, 90% of the stuff was just ignorant from stupid people that don't know too much of anything about the situation.
Yeah, definitely, and that's true. And it's always definitely a hot topic when dealing with domestic violence and everything like that. And Stephen A. Smith definitely. He tried to push the envelope but just emphasize some words of his that weren't taken across clearly enough, and so that's what really pretty much got him in trouble. And as well as when Dawkins was saying when it's internationally televised for everybody to see, it's more microscopic of the anchors of what they say and the analysts, and so you have to be every picture perfect clear on everything that you say, and as well as I got what he was saying as well, like Dawkins was saying, and there's definitely some things like a lot of a slippery slope, but I mean at the end of the day there should be never anybody hitting anybody. I mean, whether it's a female hitting a guy or a guy hitting a girl, for sure. I guess where I got a little of that from is like I was watching some other shows, and then I read on some news of I guess The View. They had the discussion as well too, where Whoopi Goldberg was more or less trying to explain what Stephen A. Smith was saying about preventative measures, where like in the first place women shouldn't hit men as well either, like even to start it and not be surprised about being hit back, but there should be no point of any hitting at all whatsoever. It should never come down to being fists between people, between men and women, and because that's when everything goes out the windows. Once somebody throws the first punch is when everything just goes out the window and spirals into chaos. And we do need to talk about it. I guess you could say we do need some more of that education. Yeah. Maybe even the health classes that we have in school and everything like that, even though they're more towards the anatomy and everything like that, there should have some about domestic violence and things like that, a little bit more in that, just because that's part of mental health and wellness. So that should be a little bit more focused on in schools too, so then that can hopefully be more aware for the younger generations. But after everything's said and done, I mean, it's the aftermath of any domestic violence is already concluded after somebody throws that first punch, pretty much. So we just need to be able to try to talk it out more and go and not come down to violence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Great point. Gosh, I wish that he would have eloquated it better. I wish he would have said it better, because I think that we're all kind of saying the same thing, that the conversation needs to be had, you know? We've all, and all three of us, I think, we all have had situations, or we know people, well, I'm not going to speak for you guys, I don't know, but the time they should have gotten out of it. And they have come to me and like, you know, come with bruises and scars, and been like, oh yeah, so we just threw him across the room and, like, you know, we got into a big fight. And I'm like, okay, so why you do that? Oh, because I didn't call him when I should have. I'm like, wow. So why are you still there? You know, and it's just situations like that. And then, you know, that happens a lot, way more than I think that people realize. So I think that his point that I mean, yes, it was bad for Ray Rice to do this allegedly and to have this happen, but at the same time, women have to be held accountable for situations that they may put themselves in, and you know, for that reason, I think that the conversation is good, that it's out there, and that, you know, we're talking about it, Twitter was talking about it, and hey, you know, yes, he got suspended for a week, but at the end of the day, that's what he's there for, you know, and that's why he is arguably one of the most recognized black figures on ESPN besides Stuart Scott. You know, people look at him for you know, opinions on top stories, because he does speak the truth, and he does have a different background than a lot of the people on ESPN do. So, you know, I kind of liked it, but, you know, maybe I'm in a minority. I don't know.
No, I liked it too. I mean, just because it's just a cycle of where a lot of the women just go back to these bad habits, bad surroundings. I mean, just like Ray Rice's wife. I mean, she decided to still marry him even after being physically abused and everything like that. That's just to continue to go back to somebody that physically abuses you is just something that's totally preventable, but for mentally, because cognitively in the back of their minds they feel that they can change the person, or that the person just did it once and they won't do it again, is just totally absurd, especially after the fact that they've already done it. So it doesn't mean that they're not going to do it again. They still have that tendency, because they know that they've done it before, and that anything could set them off again. So
yeah, for sure. All right, awesome. Well, let's move on. We got about a half an hour left, so I definitely want to get into some baseball here. So let's hold off on the Lester thing, because we're gonna do that last, because I don't want to miss anything else. So let's start with David Price going to the Tigers. Huge trade. David Price, joins the Tigers. The Tigers are now, arguably, are right up there with the A's as having one of the best rotations in baseball. And a lot of people are now picking these two teams going up against each other in the playoffs and saying, "Oh, well, this would be an amazing series to watch." Do you guys like that that deal that the Tigers got David Price?
Absolutely,
yeah, sure.
because I could see him, you know, staying there for a while. I could see them giving him a contract. I could see him staying there, being part of, like you said, one of the best rotations, you know, in all of baseball. You know what I mean? So I definitely like the move. It really wasn't working out in Tampa Bay anymore. He really didn't want to be there. He's been on the trading block really for like the past 2-3 years. So it was about time that they moved him. I like the deal. I like the fact that the Tigers, it seemed today, watching all the coverage on it, that a lot of teams are like all in. You know what I mean? And I love that, because it seems like a lot of teams that are around that, you know, are projected to be into the playoffs, that are setting themselves up for a deep playoff run, are going all in trying to get to the World Series this year, not really waiting on next year and stuff like that. So I like it. I think Detroit definitely has one of the best, rotations now. They did definitely have all the big names. You know what I mean? So adding David Price is just another good arm, and he is one of the better pitchers in the league. So I definitely like the move for Detroit.
Yeah, I definitely love that Detroit's move on that, because not only is he one of the top pitchers, he's one of the top left-handed pitchers next to Madison Bumgarner, and it's hard to find a left-handed pitcher that can be so dominant as David Price. So you can start having him in many combinations depending on matchups and everything like that, because he is left-handed. And with that, playoffs are pretty much won in pitchers' duels, and all it comes down to is a few mistakes or just a few timely hits from some key players in the playoffs that come up big. And so a lot of them are just come from unexpected places to make those key hits and things like that. So if you have a pitcher like David Price, it limits that, especially in a 7-game series. If Detroit is going to go try to win this World Series, that's what they needed was a left-handed pitcher that can be so dominant for when they do go against like an NL team, whichever NL team will be they would face, because of all those combinations, there's a lot of players that have difficulties hitting against left-handed pitchers. So to have one so dominant as David Price, and they have him for the next year or so, because they know that Max Scherzer declined their contract, a contract for $77 million. That they were kind of focused on having a backup plan as well too, just because they may not have Max Scherzer for next season, so they'll already have David Price under their contract for another year, while they hash out all that. Even after the offseason, if they were to get eliminated in the playoffs, they would still have a pretty formidable rotation, even if they weren't able to get Max Scherzer back. So I like that. And what Dawkins was saying is that a lot of teams are going focused all in, but one of the teams I am disappointed in is my team, the Giants. They just didn't do anything. They just didn't do anything in the trade deadline, really, at all. Jake Peavy, he's starting to be on the wrong side of age, as well as he's just not that dominant anymore, I don't feel, like he used to be when he used to be in San Diego. And as well as it's just they don't have any second basemen, and they got hurt players everywhere. They just didn't. I don't feel that they made a move big enough to catapult them into a World Series winning team. I would love to see them if they could if somebody puts, like, say Tampa, if they put like Ben Zobrist on the waiver wire and they picked him up off waivers like they did, like the Giants had done with Cody Ross and things like that, then that would be great. But I just feel disappointed in the Giants for not being able to put their cards into a basket, even though they were in the running for a David Price deal with Ben Zobrist, or as well as any other pitchers like from Boston. They instead of going for Peavy, they could have tried to go for either John Lester or John Lackey. So it's just kind of disappointing in that one that they just came out with Jake Peavy and nobody else. And even though, like, the Yankees, they got a consistent batter in Martin Prado. So I mean, the Giants could have gotten somebody like him who's able to play anywhere in the field. They could have plugged a lot of holes. They could have plugged holes with Martin Prado if they wanted to. So it's just, for me, the Giants are. I'm just disappointed.
I can hear it in your voice, man. You're disappointed. Man, okay. So at the beginning of this segment, I said arguably one of the best rotations in baseball, and they don't have one of the best rotations in baseball. David Price hasn't been the guy that we've seen in a long time. The last 2 years, his stats have just not been there. His last start, he gave up a big old nugget to the Brewers. So I'm not seeing him as a possible 1 or 2 guy. I mean, in any rotation right now, I think he's still living off of that hype. So adding him I feel like from the Tigers' point of view, it's kind of like an emergency button here, because obviously with the A's getting that pitcher, it really the Tigers really needed a guy, and they were like, oh no, who are we gonna get? You know, and then Lackey left, and they're like, okay, so who are we gonna get? Who else is out there? You know, and they were like, okay, so let's go get David Price, and luckily for them, they didn't give up that many offensive tools. You know, Austin Jackson, yes, he's going to be sorely missed, but they still have Rajay Davis in center, and Rajay Davis has been having a great year for the Tigers. So the offense will still be there for the Tigers, and in the playoffs, their offense has been producing at a high level every time that we see them. You know. But I still think that adding in David Price, yes, the name is going to be cool, but I'm not sold on him. I'm not sold on him. He hasn't shown me anything since his 20-win season. So, you know, it's exciting for Tiger fans, I guess. But from a neutral point of view, I'm not seeing them as, like, making a huge splash. And, oh, wow, now they're, like, the best rotation in baseball. No way. No way. So that's my.
Well, alrighty. I think if David Price is the third pitcher, then that's a pretty good third pitcher. And like Tox said, he is left-handed, so he's going to pose, you know, some matchup, you know, situations for the other team and stuff like that. So if he is the third, you know, pitcher in the rotation, I think that's an upgrade. Yeah, you know, he hasn't played that well, but he really didn't want to be in Tampa Bay for the past couple of years. So maybe that has something to do with it.
That's true too.
And they'll have more consistent run support.
Definitely. And a fan base. And that always helps.
Yeah. Right. Right. Okay, so. All right. Awesome. All right. So let's move on to the other one, and let's talk about the Cardinals getting Lackey. They gave up Craig and Kelly. Alan Craig, I think, is going to fit right in at first base, or maybe the outfield with Napoli.
No, he'll be at first. He'll be at first.
What are they going to do with Napoli then?
Napoli, I don't know. They might put him at third or something like that, or they
third
could
base.
Yeah,
What?
they could put Craig at third base. I mean, Craig
at third base.
Yeah, dude. He's even though he's more they more have him as a first and third. Red Sox need a more defensive-minded players, and they got Jackie Bradley Jr. back there already. So I don't think, for defensive purposes, I don't think they would move him for Alan Craig defensively in the outfield. So, and plus they got Cespedes out there too. So I don't see. I feel like the Red Sox outfield is already pretty much covered, so they would have to move him into the infield. I mean, we'll see. We'll see exactly what the manager does, but I feel like he's going to be more of an infield position player than an outfield. Maybe they might switch it up on days where he will play some outfield, but not as much.
Yeah. I like this trade by the Cardinals and the Red Sox. I think the Red Sox got another bat to help them possibly make a run for that wild card. I know that a lot of people are now kind of sold them off, but I feel like David Ortiz is kind of playing a little bit better these last couple of weeks. So adding on a slugger like Alan Craig, who is established, plug him in there, 3-4, something like that. That'll definitely help them. The Cards get a starting pitcher who will obviously help that rotation, something that they really need right now to try to get past the Brewers, who surprisingly have a great rotation, who a lot of people didn't think had a good rotation at the beginning of the year, but they are now. So I actually like this trade. What do you think, Dawkins?
I like the trade. I think that definitely, especially with the Red Sox other move today, they definitely are worried about, getting runs in and stuff like that. So I like the move. I also think that, they definitely had to give up, some of their starting pitchers to get the guys that they got today. So, it is a risk, but if they're trying to make the playoffs, which I know being Boston, that I'm definitely going to try and make the playoffs. So They needed run support, you know what I mean? And I think that with the moves they made today, it should give them that. Losing two pitchers, two starting pitchers is going to hurt. I think maybe in the short term, but long term, I think it's a good move, for the Red Sox, and hopefully it works out for them. But making the playoffs as far as this year, I don't really see that happening.
Yeah, it's going to be a surprise if they do, But if they do, they'll be dangerous in the playoffs for sure with that lineup. All right. Yeah, for sure. All right.
Come on, man, it's timed up.
Is it time? Oh shit.
It's time, man.
All right, it is time. Okay, so Lester and the A's. So the Oakland A's and Billy Beane decided to pull the trigger to bring in another starting pitcher.
Billy.
And it's crazy because I thought they just traded for a pitcher, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just have my dates mixed up. But he decides to go out and give up Yoenis Cespedes, who was an All-Star this year, centerpiece of the offense. Whatever. Like who knew?
It hurts.
So they send him to Boston for Lester. What did you guys think when you heard this?
Well, you texted me this, right? And I first was like, wow. Like, what? Are you serious? But then I thought about it, and we've been talking Billy Beane really ever since like 2011, with some of the moves that he made. And 2011 was the year that he brought in Cespedes. They signed him to a 4-year, $36 million deal. This is year 3. You know what I mean? So the one thing that we said is that this guy's not going to be here after 4 years. That's one thing that we said. So to make this move now makes sense. Does it hurt? Absolutely it hurts. This dude's been in the home run derby. His name is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. He was an all-star this year, like you said. It sucks. He's probably one of the biggest names. He's somebody, he was a superstar that the A's fans could kind of latch on to, like, yeah, this is our guy. But being the A's fan, you knew that he wasn't going to be here for that long. You knew with his name getting bigger and bigger, he was probably going to demand close to a $100 million contract, if not bigger. You know what I mean? Coming from the Red Sox perspective, this is a good move for them. I feel like Cespedes in that ballpark is going to hit even more home runs. I feel like Cespedes, he already has 17 home runs this season, and that's more than all 3 of the outfielders for the Red Sox right now have combined. So that's definitely a good move for them. I'm going to miss having Cespedes, but again, getting another starting pitcher, that's how the A's want to win. They want to win with pitching. And Jason Hamill, or whatever his name, he's been stinking up the joint, right? He's been playing like hot doodle. I mean, 4 starts for the A's after the trade, and his ERA is over 9. You know what I mean? So I have no problem with this move. Thinking of what the A's are, they try to win with their pitching. So I like the move. It hurts to see Cespedes go, but ultimately he wasn't going to be an A's forever.
Yeah, and that is a big gamble what the A's did with this trade. They do get a reliable pitcher that has playoff experience, and so they're going to be looking for him to lead them into the playoffs. And be a leader out there for the rest of the pitching staff. That does hurt what Dawkins was saying, and what you have been saying is that it does take out a big chunk of power out of that lineup. And because since Cespedes was in the previous playoffs with the A's, you do lose an experienced bat as well.
Shut up.
But I mean, Johnny Gomes, he's been in the playoffs too, and he's one of those players that can. He's one of those wild card players, so you never know. Like once playoff times comes around, he's had some good playoff games, so he's one of those wild cards that can happen for the A's and everything like that. So, but again, it's just I don't know. The A's they just have to. I guess you could say they were. I don't know. I probably would have tried to keep Cespedes for one more season and then trade him next season, especially since you would probably be in playoff contention again, anyways. And then you probably could have maybe gotten some more options for your pitching, and as well as some more batters, like batting potential trades. So I don't know. I guess the A's just wanted to do it earlier, so then they wouldn't have to feel, I guess, remorse for the loss of Cespedes.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's hear it, dog.
But hey, you got somebody better than what any of the Giants got.
I woke up at 10 o'clock this morning. No, 9:50. I remember the date and time because that's going to be the time when I stop being an A's fan.
Wow.
And this
Brewers
is probably one of the biggest slaps in the face to all of the Oakland A's fans in the world, because we know the system. Dawkins, you made that evident today.
Moneyball.
We know it. We know it, okay? As an A's fan, you have to accept that fact, all right? You have to accept the fact that, hey, you know what? Don't attach yourself to any type of star player. We're going to lose them. The only star player that we've signed is Eric Chavez, and big props to him on retiring this year. Great career, awesome guy. But he's the only guy. Everyone else that kind of gets big, we always lose. So we understand what's going to happen. Okay. And we also felt like this year we were all in. All right. That's something that people are tweeting about. It's something that Billy Beane has told people about. Hashtag Billy Beane is all in this year. So he makes a trade to bring in an ace. An ace. Okay. An ace. He brings in an ace. Samardzija. And my first reaction to that was, what the F is he doing? And then I sat back and I thought about it, and I was like, okay, this is a good trade. This is a good trade. You know, if you saw my video, I was like, hey, you know what, Billy Beane, all right. You know what, this was a good one. Finally, you realize what it takes to win is starting pitching. And I was okay. But then, today at 9:50 a.m., I get a tweet, and big props to Franchise City for sending me this tweet. He said, LOL, that trade, though. And I was like, what trade? What trade? Like, what is he talking about? So, I jump on ESPN, and I see it. And the first thing I do is I throw my iPod across the room. Luckily, it doesn't break. I throw my iPod across the room, and I'm furious because even though us as A's fans know that Cespedes isn't going to be here, we're in the middle of a freaking playoff race. We're considered a team that has the potential to win the World Series. Our offense has scored more runs than we have ever scored in the last in the last 4 years. We have never scored this many runs. Our offense has not produced this well. You ask anybody who isn't an A's fan, are you guys surprised that the A's are scoring so many runs? They'd say yes, because we have a team that is built, and we've waited. We've waited, okay? Donaldson, we've waited on Donaldson. He's at the peak of his career. We waited on Moss. He's at the peak of his career. We're waiting on all these guys to kind of get it all together. And now that we have all these guys getting it all together, you're going to throw away the biggest piece. The biggest piece. If you look at the record that the A's have with Cespedes in the lineup and with Cespedes out of the lineup, it's drastic. We can't win without this guy. So instead of you actually putting it all in like Billy Beane allegedly does, he brings in another starting pitcher. It's the most ridiculous thing. I've never seen it happen before, and this is what is crazy. And this is why I say I've never seen this happen before, because I've seen players on the A's get traded at the end of the season. Okay, now Dawkins, and we said this 2 years ago. We know Cespedes is leaving. You know, there's a limit on that. But this is outrageous. This is ludicrous that you give away your star player, your powerful guy, your number 4 guy who has been in the lineup, one, to protect Donaldson, okay, because Donaldson bats 3, okay? So now you totally don't have anyone to protect Donaldson. So Donaldson's average is going to go from 230 to probably 215, okay? Moss, again, no protection. you bring up Reddick now. You're thinking that Reddick is going to be some type of savior. This guy is hitting 220. No way is he going to be any type of offense. Okay, you bring back Johnny Gomes. Johnny Gomes has not been the same Johnny Gomes we've seen in the playoffs in the last couple of years. And plus, if you're talking about playoff experience, Cespedes has one of the best playoff stat lines in his young career. And we're bringing in somebody like Johnny Gomes to replace him. That's craziness. It's absolutely ridiculous. The Red Sox got a great player. Like I said, Cespedes has just learned the game more. His power is amazing. He's taking more pitches. He's getting on base more. His speed, his fielding obviously needs to improve. A lot of the throwing assists that he's got, like those amazing throws, happen because he makes an error on the play. So, as a Boston Red Sox fan right now, you're licking your chops because you just totally bamboozled Billy Beane. And now, instead of us being a favorite to win the whole World Series, we're now a favorite to get knocked out in the first round against the Tigers once again. So,
I've been listening long enough. I think that this is a painful day for an A's fan. I think a lot of people, I've been reading stuff online, a lot of people feel like this is a punch in the stomach, a slap in the face, and I totally agree with y'all. Cespedes is one of those rare air talents. Do I think that he's going to be the best outfielder in the game in a couple of years? Most likely not. Even though he's taking more pitches, his average is still 250, 260, not the best average. I feel like this is a good trade for both sides. Ultimately, am I going to miss Cespedes? Absolutely. But to say that the A's all of a sudden are not going to be a contender, to me, is a joke. Because last year, even though Cespedes, he played well himself, the offense really wasn't there. You know what I mean? So I feel like again, this dude, Jason Hamill, right? He's a starting pitcher right now. He's playing like hot garbage. There's no way if he is like, the fourth or third day starter for the A's that they're going to make it out of the first round no matter who they face. So bringing in another starting pitcher, maybe to replace this guy, maybe to give that guy some rest, maybe send him to the bullpen, I think is a good move. Cespedes, again, if he's not going to be here in a year from now, why not make this move now? Why not? Because again,
but you're not getting anything to build on. And
wasn't the problem? Okay, I hear your argument. I really do, but we can't say something today and act like what we said in the past doesn't exist anymore. We said in the past, well, all they do is build for the future. All they do is build for tomorrow. All you do is okay. So now they're making a move to I guess kind of suggest that they're all in. Some people would say no, if you kept Cespedes, then you're all in. I hear y'all. I do. I hear y'all. At the end of the day, though, I feel like that this move right here is a plus. I really do. Just because we knew that Cespedes is not going to be here for the long haul.
Yeah. There's no way I can see. I mean, I kind of see where you're coming from, but I can't see how it's a plus because we have never in the last 2 years, obviously, we're in the West. We have never been as good as we are this year. And if you think about it, if what they're doing is building for the playoffs, then why are you creating a 5-man rotation? Why are you creating a 4-man rotation? Because in the majority of playoffs, and especially in World Series series, it's a 3-man rotation at best. Because with days off and stuff like that. So now what you have done is you're getting some. I mean, John Lester is a great pitcher. He's a great pitcher. I'm gonna love watching him play. But at the end of the day, what really irks me is there's no need for this trade to happen because
right now, yeah. I mean, today there's no need for it. But if you want to watch John Lester in the playoffs, if you want to watch him in the playoffs, you had to give up something. So why not give up somebody who's not going to be here in a year from right now? Why not give up somebody who has a clause in a contract where they can opt out after their third year? That's what Cespedes can do. After this year, he can opt out and try and get more money.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
exactly.
yes, but we don't need Lester though. Like, there's no need
You
for us
don't need
to have
Lester,
Lester.
but what is the point of keeping Cespedes if you know he's going to be gone and you don't get nothing for him?
I think more or less they should have done this trade earlier for Leicester, and then not have done the Samaria trade and use that for something else for a batter to replace Cespedes.
Yeah, I mean that's really exactly, Doc, and that's really what it
I
is.
agree with that. I do agree with that.
Because yes, okay, Cespedes would have been gone next year, but the fact is that this year we could use his services. So I don't see why we don't keep him because, like you said, his stock is rising, and if you keep him till the end of this year, and let's say that he brings us to the World Series and we lose in the World Series, his stock will be at a monumental high. And that's when you trade him. And that's really why
because again, he could opt out after this season. He could opt out after this season. So if he does take the A's to the World Series, if he does play phenomenal and they happen to lose, or even if they happen to win, he could opt out this year, and then you get nothing for him because it's
why
his
John Lester? Like, there's no need to bring in John Lester. If you're gonna try to if you're gonna go out and you're gonna try to bring in a bat, then why don't you go out and you try to get somebody like I don't know, somebody that's on the trading block, Austin Jackson from the Tigers.
Well, they were thinking of a playoff leader. That's who they were thinking of, somebody that could lead their staff in the playoffs. That's pretty much all that they were thinking of. And Lester's that pitcher that's capable of doing it. I mean, he's pitched with Schilling, he's pitched with Beckett, he's pitched with a lot of high players, everything like that. So that's why the A's brought him in there, is to lead a staff and to lead the staff of the A's. And when it comes down to the playoffs, there's not that many. There's definitely not really any blowout games. They're all really tight pitching games. And so when you have a leader like that maybe some of the other pitchers will rub off of him. And then maybe for next season too, if the A's were to get knocked out, you would still have the experience from Lester to lead them. But at the same time, though, they should have done it, like I just said earlier. They should have done it earlier in the season with Cespedes, and then they wouldn't have to worry about getting the Samaria, and they could have used that again, like I said, for another batter.
Tax, I totally agree with you, but I feel like, and to Levin's point, that Cespedes is a rare talent, one of the best bats that we've had in Oakland for a long, long time. I feel like if Jason Hamill wasn't struggling the way that he is, 4 starts, giving up 26 hits in those combined starts, 5 home runs, an ERA well over 7, almost, I think it's close to 8 right now. So I feel if he wasn't struggling, then you probably keep Cespedes. I know A's fans really ain't trying to hear that. I know just the diehard fans have been struggling with this team for a while, ain't trying to hear that. I know people that love Cespedes, love having a star on the team, are not trying to hear that. But at the end of the day, we can't deny the fact that this guy has struggled in his last 4 starts. His only 4 starts for the A's have been pathetic. And if we're going to be...
wait, are we talking about Hamill?
Yeah.
Oh.
Is he not a starting pitcher?
No, he's a bullpen. He's a long reliever.
Yeah, he's a long reliever, 1, and 2, like, he's not going to be, like, yes, he was a package deal at the end of the day, but, like, none of us really expected him to break a rotation, especially with Gray and Kazmir pitching so well. We didn't really expect him to be there. But here's the thing, and right now I'm just looking at comments from the story on MLB Network, not MLB Network, MLB.com, because I'm really trying to figure out why people think that this is the time for this move, and there's not, and I just can't. There's nothing that and I've been, like, this whole day I've just been trying to wrap my head around it, and people have been tweeting me and Facebook and asking, like, hey man, what do you think about this? Hey man, what do you think about this? Hey man, what do you think about this? And I'm like, yo man, I can't right now, because I just can't understand it. And it's just like, yes, like the optimist in me is saying, okay, so hey, we get Lester, and then next year Cespedes opts out and we bring him back, because this whole time, Cespedes has made it very, very clear that, hey, you know what, he has no problem with Oakland. He may want to stay in Oakland. From everything that we hear about him,
Of course he's
again,
gonna
you know,
say
it's all
that now. Of
translation.
course he's gonna say that now, though.
I know, but it's all translation. It's all translation, so maybe lost in translation, apparently. But it's like this guy, the trade for Lester doesn't make sense, and that's what, like, okay, I'm not like, I will still be a fan of Yoenis Cespedes. I will watch him in Boston. I will cheer for him in Boston. You know, I will always be a fan of his because, one, I like that he can smash the ball. I mean, obviously, his swing is amazing. His speed is amazing. He's a freak. I've seen his YouTube videos. So he is awesome, and I will always be a fan of Yoenis Cespedes. And I am happy that he's going somewhere where more eyes will be on him, and he'll get the spotlight and that whole Yankee rivalry. That's awesome. I really hope that he does well there, and also I really hope that he does not come back to Oakland, because from a fan point of view of Yoenis Cespedes, he needs to get out of that shithole, because that team is not going anywhere, and it's just a rotating door of let's bring in new pitchers, let's bring in pitchers, let's bring in pitchers. And when you have a guy that is so talented offensively, like him, and even though his average doesn't say it, he's a threat. And you have people like Donaldson, you have people like Moss, and you have people, I hate throwing him in there, but Reddick, who has the potential to be very good offensive players. You are not going to win anything in Oakland, just because the mentality in Oakland is all about pitching, and it always has been. Ever since we had those big three, it's always been about pitching. And it's so strange, because when we are the best, we have a combination of pitching and hitting. When we went on that long win streak, we had a combination of great pitching and great hitting. And that is we saw the A's really doing something this year, and giving up Cespedes, we knew it was going to happen, but it didn't have to be for John Lester. It could have been for something else. It could have been for, a pitcher. Like, okay, maybe you give Cespedes and you throw in Malone, who also got traded today, and you get Price from the Tampa Bay Rays, and you get somebody. Let's throw in Loney or something. Something like that. That way we know that, okay, you know what, we're getting a decent bat in return. But right now we don't have anyone, so we have this big gaping hole in our lineup. And what it does is, if I were Josh Donaldson or Brandon Moss right now, I'd be absolutely furious, because it's going to be awesome. But let's think, you're going to be going up against teams that have great pitching and great offense, and that's why when we talked about the Detroit Tigers, that trade was so absolutely amazing to be able to pull off, because now we know how good their offense can be, and now they have a pretty good pitcher in Price. And if he can return to that form like he had, then, hey, you know what? That could be a very, very powerful team. And I don't see the A's even touching that team. I don't see the A's even touching any team that turn up offense. And it's like, we've been here before. And we've all seen the A's have these great pitches on the mound and then lose 1-0 because the pitcher makes a mistake and gives up a home run. We can't score any runs. So that's really what I'm at. I don't understand the trade. That's what gets me. I don't.
Yeah, it's definitely very disappointing from your perspective. But who knows? There's still the waiver wire, the waiver deadlines. So maybe there could be a bet that comes down the road, and they maybe could pick somebody off of waivers. So you never know. That's probably the final chance for the A's to find a bat is before the waiver deadline. So, yeah. Because, there are opportunities for teams to pick up some unexpected players off of the waiver deadline. So you never know. There's still one last opportunity for pretty much all teams.
Yeah, there's a possibility, I guess. So do you guys still think that the A's are a top contender in the AL?
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to say because we're gonna have to see how the bats hold up without Cespedes in the lineup. So I think I'm waiting for like the first couple of games, first couple of weeks without Cespedes to see how the bats hold up. If the bats aren't there going into the postseason, going into like September and stuff like that, then it's definitely gonna be like new day, same story. I mean, we're still in the same book, still in the same chapter where they can't produce versus the better, pitching staffs, deep in the playoffs. The past couple of years versus Detroit, the bats weren't there. You know what I mean? Like you said, if a pitcher makes one mistake, most likely the A's are gonna lose. So I'm gonna be waiting to see how the A's produce without Cespedes in the lineup offensively. I still feel like they're one of the better teams in the AL. So only time will tell. I'm a miss Cespedes. I really am. You know what I mean? So hopefully this move works out, or this might be one of the worst trades ever, because like you were saying, living. The offense has been like the best offensive year for the A's in a long time. You know what I mean? So it definitely hurts, definitely stings, and only time will tell.
Yeah. Only time will tell. All right, guys. Those are all of our topics for today. Yay! Round of applause. Not really. All right, but now we're going to go into the last topic, I guess, is a minute to preach it. So basically, this is where we have a minute to talk about whatever we want. It can be sports related, music, life, gaming, whatever. So who wants to start?
I can start it off.
All right. Let me pull this up here. Oh, that's my alarm clock. No. Here.
Is it now, baby?
Oh, baby.
Oh,
Oh,
baby.
All right, man. Just let me know whenever you're ready.
I am. I'm ready.
Okay. Go.
All right, y'all. Since Stephen A. Smith has been suspended, a lot of people have been talking about freedom of speech and all this stuff, and how like that's unfair for him to get suspended for something that he says, something that he feels. Same thing with Donald Sterling. How can he lose his team for how he feels and what he says? Now, again, with freedom of speech, you cannot get arrested for anything that you say. You could say F this person, F this person. I think that person is a flaming homo, whatever. You could say whatever you want to say and not get arrested. That does not mean that you cannot lose your job. That does not mean that you cannot lose your team. That does not mean that you cannot get suspended. I know a lot of families that throw F-bombs back and forth to one another. You come to my house, that's not acceptable here, but you still have freedom of speech. You just can't say that in my house. So at the end of the day, freedom of speech is so you can say whatever you want in this great country, but you cannot just get away with whatever you say or whatever you think. You can say whatever you want to say without getting arrested. Yeah, that's true. But that doesn't mean you can say whatever you want to say and not get a beat down or not get suspended or not lose a team or anything like that. So Stephen A. Smith, I respect you, but you got to watch what you're saying, how you say it.
All right. Tox, do you want to go or do you want me to go, Anchor?
Sure, I'll go this time.
All right. Let me know whenever you're ready.
All right, I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to be talking a little about the Destiny game that because the beta was available for a limited time to people for all platforms, and I was playing it, and it was one of those you see it on ad from time to time on TV, and some of the gameplay looked good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty fun. Graphics were really great, as well as the first-person shooter style, and as well as being able to upgrade weapons and things like that. Seemed fun, and the missions seemed interesting. I do wish though that there were more pickup items that you could pick up, such as gear and weapons and things like that, laying around the maps. Multiplayer. There was only a couple maps on it, which were fun. Hopefully, in the full game, a lot of the other maps will be really fun as well too for the multiplayer.
That game was pretty cool, man. Did you think? Okay, what do you think about that whole? Did you ever play any of the campaign missions or whatever?
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah. What do you think about the fact that they allowed other players to be in the same missions as you?
I thought it was really cool. So you could just just like, especially if you decided to do like a lone mission on hard, like with like the harder difficulties, then you might be able to bump into some people and they would be able to help you out. So you
Yeah.
won't just be getting killed all over and over again.
It was yeah. That game was cool. Are you gonna pre-order it?
I don't think I'm gonna pre-order it, but I think I am gonna get it for sure. It just was more fun than what I thought it would be, actually.
Bow show.
Yep. And the multiplayer, I did like the multiplayer. It was
Oh yeah,
really fun.
I didn't get to try that out, unfortunately, but.
Oh man, you missed out on the multiplayer.
What, you mean like online? Or?
Yeah, against other people. It was like they had like a territories type one.
Oh, nice.
That was pretty much, that was pretty much the only gameplay the only multiplayer game one that they had was the territories one. But I bet like in the real game they'll have other ones for like just type Slayer games and whatnot, Slayer mode or whatnot, or Team Slayer type deal. I bet they will in the full game. But just the beta was just territories.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
All right, it sounds good. I guess it's my turn now, right?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. So obviously today with the A's trade, it made me question my loyalty to one of the franchises that I grew up watching since I was little. And my mom made me, it didn't make me, but pushed me toward the A's, and eventually I stopped pushing back, and I just fell in love with that organization. And with all the trades, words may be said, and emotions may be flaring and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, there's nothing that can beat watching an A's game, and nothing that can beat cheering for them. And at the end of the day, loyal fans are loyal fans, and we get heated about things, we get angry, we have emotions, but that's only because we care, and that's only because we love the team. So, am I sad that Cespedes is gone? Sure. But I'm still going to root for him, and I do hope that they do make a good run in the playoffs. Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and I can't wait to see him. So, there we go.
There you go.
That took some courage, dog.
Mm-hmm.
It did, didn't it? All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was an interesting show. Definitely fun to do. We'll be back here next Thursday. Same time, same place. 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern Time, and 3:30 Pacific Time. Definitely leave a comment. Let us know what you think about the trades that happened today. What do you guys think about the Ray Rice situation? You can follow Miles Dawkins on Twitter at MilesDawkins247. You can follow Tox at Seismic1987, and you can follow me at 11510 on Twitter. That's it. Do you guys have anything else before we bounce out?
Be careful what you say out there.
Yep.
Somebody's always recording you.
Somebody always is.
The man is out there. Watch out for the man.
Who was that rapper that said like F?
So what now?
We lost connection with him.
We always do.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. All right, well, that's it. We're going to get out of here.
Yeah.
Or my internet completely gives out.